Hey, Homeworthy. I'm Leslie. Welcome to my home in California. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Be sure to visit our website, homeworthy.com, to discover amazing furniture, art, accessories, and more, all handpicked by our editors to help transform your house into a home. All of the items are inspired by the episodes you see here on Homeworthy. Enjoy!
Hi, I'm Leslie Martin. I am one half of an interior design firm called M&M Interior Design, and we are sitting in my home in La Jolla, California. So this house was built in the 90s, and when we first saw it, it sort of was lacking, a bit of charm, like a typical 90s house can, but we saw the potential. It is in an area of La Jolla, California called Bird Rock that is right on the ocean. We're actually on a cliff overlooking the ocean. So it's a beautiful spot, and it just needed some charm. So we did a lot of work to bring in a kind of a sense of history to it, by adding some architectural details that I'll talk about. But what we loved about the house, aside from the location, is that it just had this incredibly happy vibe to it. And I don't know if we can, tie that back to its previous owners or what it was, but there was just like an energy about this house that sort of spoke to us right away. And what was interesting for me is that it actually is a few doors down from the house that I lived in my 20s, which was just a total coincidence. So in some way it sort of felt like coming home to me. And so now it's kind of strange to be back here with 5 children and hanging out in my old neighborhood, my old stomping ground, but it's really kind of a full circle moment. So it's great. It's rather small, I will say that, and probably not by regular standards, but when you're cramming 5 kids into the house, it does feel rather small. But the great thing about being in Southern California is that we live outside 90% of the time. So we eat our meals outside, the kids are outside constantly, and so we can sort of make a smaller house work for our family. And again, we can't beat this location. Waking up to the sounds of the ocean is just priceless, and I would live in a shoebox if it meant that I could wake up to that view every morning. So this is our foyer. It opens up to really a big great room in the house. It's the kitchen, it's the living, it's the dining, it's all sort of one large connected space. But it was really important that I gave it a moment that sort of makes it feel like an entryway. So great way to do that is a table that's sort of your catch-all. This is a great piece. When we lived in Chicago, we were lucky enough to live in the original Playboy Mansion, and when we bought the condo, we asked the previous owner if we could have some of her antiques, thinking there was no way she was going to say yes to that, but she actually did, and this is one of those pieces. So I love that it's got a lot of history to it. What is hiding behind this is a jib door that opens up, and it's all my storage for all of my china. It's a small house, so we needed to steal storage space wherever we could, so we would utilize that space under the stairs to store all of that stuff, which is great. This shell lamp is one of my favorite things. I have a total obsession with all things shell-encrusted. I don't know where it came from, but it's very strange. There's lots of things that have shells on them in this house, which is perfect because we're by the sea. So I found this at an antique store and just fell in love with it, but didn't buy it when I first saw it, and ended up leaving, driving all the way home, and then couldn't stop thinking about it. So I drove 45 minutes back to the antique store to pick it up, and thank goodness it was still there. Always a good idea in an entryway, have a little box to throw things in, keys, receipts, that sort of thing. This little ottoman, I love. It was country club that was having like a big renovation, and so they were getting rid of a lot of their old stuff. So I got this for practically nothing, and I wanted to recover it in something fun with a block print, but I just wasn't finding the right thing. So I went downstairs to my stack of tablecloths, and I found this one. I'm like, that would be so perfect. So had my upholsterer recover the ottoman in a tablecloth, but you would never know. Always on the ready is my to-go basket. This is the soccer game grab. There's always shin guards and whatnots and water bottles in there, but why not make it cute? It's gotta work and be cute at the same time. This fixture is a huge favorite of mine. I'm a big fan of one of the original interior designers, Frances Elkin, and she did a plaster shell lamp. This is sort of just a more updated version of that, and I loved that it had the rope on it, which made it feel just slightly nautical and a little bit more casual, but I think it's perfect here in this space. The drapery by the front door was a big debate in my house. Everybody thought it was a very strange idea, but it's actually, you see it a lot like in country houses in Britain and Europe. And I think the original intent for it was more temperature control. You could kind of close off the draft. But I think it's great for what we have going on here, which is this Dutch door. With the glass front, sometimes you can feel a little exposed at night. So especially if the kids are here, they can pull that and they feel like they have a lot more privacy. And also it's a great opportunity to bring in a little bit of color and pattern, which I'm always looking for an opportunity to do that. So that works well there. And as soon as it went up, everybody stopped giving me a hard time about it because I think they love it too. The mural leading up to the staircase or up the stairwell, it was more of an issue of practicality actually. So when we first bought the house, I had only seen the house for about 15 minutes total, and then we flew back to Hawaii and made an offer and bought the house, and I had to do all of the original renovating of the house from afar, and I didn't know the house very well. So first thing I did was just have everything painted white, which was just a good base to start with. So we had moved in and it was, living in the house, and this whole big expansive wall was white, and I very quickly started to see little muddy handprints going up the staircase, which happens in a house with kids, and I thought, okay, that's gonna drive me nuts. So what can I put on that wall that's gonna sort of hide that kind of wear and tear? And so a mural made total sense. This mural is from a company called Ixel. They're fabulous, they're out of London, and we had this one custom sized to accommodate the double height because it goes all the way up to the second level. And it's really become such a focal piece of the house. Everybody asks about it when they come and see it. And I don't know if you can see where you are, but it's a beautiful sort of boat scene. And then there's a giant tree that arches up that will carry up to the second level. You'll see when we go up there. But it's fantastic. And the stairwell runner was a bit of a challenge. I had it made overseas, and then it came to me in like 4 different pieces, and we had to have the installer sort of puzzle piece it together. But I love the kind of graphicness of the bold stripe that we've mitered here on the corners. And super durable, 100% wool, can't do anything to it. It takes a beating. I don't know how you would define the style of this house, actually. I call it a beach cottage. It's very simple. It was almost sort of craftsman-y in its architecture. There just wasn't a lot here. So one of the first things that I wanted to do was add some detail to it. So it had just sort of builder grade trim around all the windows and doors. So I had those all ripped off, and we added some bulkier trim and some window sills. And then one of the biggest things we did was this wall to my left was just solid wall and some heavy built-ins. And so I knew I wanted to bring in more light. So we knocked those out and added some windows. We added some shiplap detail to make it feel authentic and old. And we did some stonework in the kitchen. And, everything that we could do to sort of age the house in a way. But really just, if you look at it from the outside, it's really just sort of a square box. And so it was tricky to sort of add the details to make it a little bit more interesting. But if I had to define it, I'd say it's just kind of a quintessential beach cottage. That is the foyer, and that leads directly into the living room area. So when we bought the house, this room was actually pretty dark. This window and this window did not exist. They were big, heavy built-ins that housed, you know, the VCRs and all of the technology of the 90s that needed to be hidden away. So they had no light coming in from here. So immediately I said, okay, we're gonna rip those out and put in some big windows, which really just floods the light in, which is great. I love using a shutter, a double hang shutter, so we can close this and get some privacy, but still let some light in. And also I just think it's kind of a nice old fashioned look to have these small louvered shutters. I think every living room needs a little bar. So this is a bar cart we've had for many, many years. Mostly it's bourbon. We're big bourbon drinkers. And I just, you know, it's always nice when you have a bar, especially if you're about to have a party, to sort of stock it with some fresh ingredients as well. So limes and mint. And I love collecting these, I think they're English biscuit jars. They used to house cookies, but they're wood and metal, and they are super charming. I actually keep black licorice in this one. Don't tell my kids, but it's sort of my little treat when I need something sweet. So there's black licorice in that one. And yeah, they're just fun. It's a fun thing to collect because, you know, typically antique stores, wherever you go, sort of have, you know, a couple of them. Some are in good shape, some aren't, but they're just great pieces to add to a bar or, you know, stick some flowers into if you need them. The egg prints, I was looking for sort of a series of things, but everything I was finding was pretty expensive. So I found a book and just ripped the pages out of the book and had them framed, and it makes this nice little collection of art. This is Lonnie, our dog. She's a puppy, and she pretty much just sleeps all day. That's her little niche. Thanks for joining us, Lonnie. Like most interior designers, I have a total obsession with decor books. It's a problem. I stack them everywhere, but I love them. There's something about having inspiration just sort of a reach away that is comforting to me. And nothing makes me happier than when I see one of my kids flipping through it and actually enjoying the book. I love that they're feeling sort of inspired as well. So they're stacked on the table, they're stacked below the table, they're stacked all around the house. Love, love, love books. Harkening back to what I was saying about my obsession with everything shell-encrusted, I even took it so far as to have the couch shell-encrusted. This is a fabulous fabric from Y out of London, and if you can see, it's they're shells, which makes a really pretty pattern. But again, I like the fact that it's kind of busy because surprisingly, it actually hides a lot of spots because it's got such kind of a busy pattern to it. I've had solid couches in the past, and for whatever reason, you can see every little spill and nick. So slap a pattern on it, it makes it a little bit more durable. So this piece is super old. It was from the 1700s, and it has traveled probably all over the world, survived a million different things, and finally made it here. And within a week, one of my children had ripped the door right off. So, you know, things happen. Thank God there's good furniture fixers, and they were able to put the door back on. But it's convenient. It stores all of our board games and some extra liquor and just things we sort of need tucked away. There's not a lot of storage in this house, so we sort of have to take every opportunity that we can, and this serves the purpose for that. This painting I love. This is the Cuba, which was a steamship that shuttled people and shipments from San Francisco to Havana, and it actually sank outside of Santa Barbara, but everybody survived, so it's a happy story. So this painting is really old, and this is the original frame. It's a little bit beat up, but one day I'll get it fixed. But I love that it's an oil painting, but it sort of has this sort of childlike simplicity to it as well, and I love that it has a California history to it. So the fireplace was something that we did when we renovated. We added the paneling, and I wanted something just sort of almost modern, not too traditional. What was here originally was pretty traditional and wood kind of detailed. So this just seemed a little bit sleeker to me. And it's just cast stone, super durable, and I think it makes a nice statement. And you know, we're in Southern California. I have this fireplace going all the time. Even if I have to crank up the air conditioning to make it cold enough to have the fireplace on, I have the fireplace on. I love a fireplace, so it's nice to have it on gas. You can just flip the switch and it's on. And now I find my kids are turning it on when they get downstairs in the morning, so it's caught on. It's lovely to have a fireplace going at all times. So that takes us into our dining room. We do not have a formal dining room. We just have sort of an eat-in area. And 5 kids, they always want to have a friend over for dinner. So do the math, that's 10 kids often. And this banquette can fit 10 to 11 kids around it, which is pretty amazing. And then the adults will take a chair. But it was the perfect space saver for a small space like this. The banquette really just allows tons of people to get in and get cozied up. I did it in this is not leather, this is a faux leather, which is fantastic. You can actually like put marker on it and wipe it right off. I don't know what exactly it's made of, but it is the most durable fabric ever. And it has this sort of leather grain to it, so it makes it look warm and like it's been around a little bit, but it's actually just some sort of vinyl that is super, super durable. So I would love to say that I'm the type of person that sets a beautiful tablescape all the time. That is absolutely not true. I do not. So my grandmother was one of the most glamorous people that I've ever known, and she was an excellent hostess. And my grandfather was in the entertainment business, and they lived in Los Angeles during their heyday, and I'm just sure threw the most marvelous parties. And she was a big collector of silver. And so when she passed, her silver collection got passed down to her daughters and her grandchildren. So I have a few bits and pieces, not much, but what I do have is super special. And so this is one of her pieces. It's a Victorian pickle jar, which by today's entertaining standards is a little bit over the top, but every once in a while I will get it out and I will polish it up and I'll put it on a pretty table, and it just brings me so much joy to see that and remember her, and I think she would be proud. She probably wishes I polished it on a regular basis. I don't, but every once in a while when I get it out, it just makes me happy and makes me think of her. So super special, a little over the top, but fantastic. So this is a dining area. This gentleman here, his name is Phil or Randy or Brad or Chip. I don't know what his name is actually, but we all have our version of who he is. So if we have dinner guests, it's a fun game we play with them. We ask them, who do you think he is and what's his background story? So we've had some really interesting versions of this man's past. So it can get kind of silly, but I don't know who he is. I don't know his history, but I found him in an antique store, and something about him just sort of transfixed me. And so I had to bring him home, and he has traveled with us to many a home and now sits here in our dining room to eat dinner with us every night. These sconces are from Urban Electric, a company we use all the time for lighting. They're fabulous. And then the little shades are from Fermoy, just a little pleated blue lampshade. And I think that they're really sweet. I think they juxtapose things nicely. They have sort of the traditional touch with the pleated shades, but the lines of them are very modern and clean. So love those. It's such pretty lighting when the sun goes down to just have those sort of on dim and soft. Not using any overhead lighting. It makes the space feel so cozy. And I love a sconce. I love a wall light. If any opportunity to put one in, we will use one because they're just such nice ambient lighting. The bookcases. So in our previous home in Chicago, we were lucky enough to have a library that housed all of our books. My husband and I both like to collect antique books. And when we moved here, I was so sad because I had not a single shelf in the house. But what I did have was blank wall space. So I asked my contractor to build these bookcases, and I think he thought I was nuts that I was building bookcases in a dining room. But I told him, rest assured I have a reason for the madness. And so when I opened all my boxes from the move and started putting the books in, I was so happy that I was able to put most of them in a nice, safe spot, and we get to look at them and enjoy them. And I think it makes this room feel sort of like a library / dining room. I mean, it's where the kids do their homework. It's where we do the Play-Doh. It's where we do a lot of things. So it actually kind of makes sense that there's sort of a library vibe to the space. I still have more books in storage, so maybe one day I'll have additional bookshelves to house them in. But for now, this is the best of the bunch that we've got. Lots of shell boxes. Again, I love collecting these little guys. Anything with a shell on it, I seem to be attracted to. Oh, I can see that there's candy wrappers in here from Halloween. I'll just keep that closed. That's where they've been storing them. So that is the dining room. So I own my business with my sister, my younger sister, and we joke and say that we've been working together for close to 50 years, and it's true. We used to be those kids, moving our furniture around in our bedrooms, driving my mother crazy, and we would set up little shops and interior design stores and play pretend that way. So we've always sort of been doing that together. At some point in our lives, in our 20s, my sister and I found ourselves living in Manhattan, and we both had totally separate careers. So she was doing high-end luxury real estate and a little bit of staging, and I was doing marketing and branding. And we both had our separate apartments, and we found that especially our husbands' friends would come to us and say, "Can you please just help us with our bachelor pads? We're totally lost." So we sort of started doing it on the side, just favors to friends, and then kind of looked at each other one day and realized, we should really be doing this for a living. So we started kind of dabbling in it then. Then life took over. She had 4 children, I had 5 children, and we both just sort of stopped working all together. But we looked at each other at some point and said, okay, we've got to get back into this just for our mental sanity. So I was pregnant with my 5th, and she was pregnant with her 3rd, and we said, let's start it up again. And everybody thought we were crazy, and we probably were. But we launched the business, put up a website overnight and thought we're never going to get a client. It's just going to be a hobby. It'll be fine. And we got a call. I don't even know how they found us, but we got a call from a local show house in the Chicago area, and they said, would you want to do a room? And we thought, okay, we don't have a portfolio to speak of. We haven't been doing this more than a few weeks. What are they going to give us, like a coat closet? That would be great. So they said, no, we really want you to do the kitchen and the sitting room and the little office. And we thought, oh my goodness, we are so in over our heads, but sure, why not? So we ended up doing it, and from that point on, the business just completely took off. We've never advertised, and we've had just constant business and repeat business, and it's just kind of taken on this life of its own. So I don't know how it happened, but we're so happy that it did. It's definitely grown beyond our wildest expectations. We're still based in Chicago, so our staff and my sister are still there. And I relocated out to the West Coast a few years ago, and so now we have 1 employee and myself out here. So we're sort of in 2 cities, but our clients are all over the country, and we probably have COVID to thank for that. Everybody got very comfortable with interior design from afar. And so I've decorated houses that I've never even stepped foot in. And that's all thanks to, great technology, a good team. And so we can really just do it all remotely, which is fantastic. And so, yeah, that's where we are. So from the dining room, that leads us right into the kitchen. I'll stop here real quick. This is, I love oil paintings. The more sort of beat up the frame is, the better, in my opinion. So this is from a Dutch artist, and I found it on auction. I use a site called Live Auctioneers. It's the best. You can find great deals. I highly recommend it. And then I like it juxtaposed with this Mexican redware pottery that I found. Just kind of playing with the spaces and the shapes, I think keeps things interesting. And it's totally okay that they're from completely different parts of the world and completely different time periods. When you throw them all together, kind of a mix, it seems to work. So here's our kitchen. Kitchen was by far the biggest renovation. So it's the only renovation that we did after we moved in. So we sort of had to live through it, which I now have total sympathy for my clients because it is so hard to live through a kitchen renovation when you're eating Fruit Loops out of a bowl in the garage for 6 months. It was horrible, but we got it done. So pretty much the footprint of the kitchen stayed the same. It worked just fine. I did make the island larger. I'm a big fan of styling an island. I don't like to see a completely empty island, so I made it wider so I had space to play with things. So here sits my collection of just sort of randomness. I love having silverware just kind of out and some crock pottery just for the kids to pull. I always have a candle going. I don't think that's recommended in the kitchen because the smells with the cooking, but I love this scent, so I always have it burning. I went with the honed marble, and I did that intentionally because I really like to see it wear and tear. I love the etching of it. So this is a honed, and certain times of day you can see all the spots in the cup rings and whatnot, but I actually really love that about it. Same as the unlacquered brass. I think the more wear and tear it gets, the better it ends up looking. So we used that. The backsplash I get asked about all the time because I think people think that it's really high maintenance. So it's a stone over-grouted backsplash. And my reasoning first and foremost with this was when you open the front door, you're flooded with this light and the kitchen is the first thing you see. And so I wanted to make sure that the backsplash didn't reflect all that light and kind of blind you. So I really need something that absorbed light. And this stone does a nice job of that. It pulls in the light and it doesn't bounce back at you. Second reason I chose it was, here in La Jolla, the topography is basically rocky cliffs that sit above the ocean. And I wanted this home to have a sense of history and almost like it had been found. And so the idea of using this stone sort of felt like we had uncovered this house and sort of carved the home into it. And so I thought that was a nice tie to the topography outside. So it works great. And the question I get the most is it hard to clean? And the answer is no, because I don't cook. And secondly, because when we do cook every once in a while, there's been things splattered on this, and this is grout, so you can just take rough sandpaper and actually just sort of sand out any spot that you get there. So it's actually pretty durable, which is great. Same with the plaster hood. I did that intentionally, so again, it would absorb the light and not be reflective back at you. So this is just a nice plaster hood that we did. The lights are from a company called Jam out of London that specializes in antique reproductions, and you would never know that this isn't 200 years old. The way that they age their metals is so artistic and fabulous, and they are, every detail of this is just perfect. They took, I think, a year to be made, but they were completely worth it once they arrived. I could not love them more. And at night, I'm a creature of habit, and at a certain time I will walk around and dim all the lights. I think they call it like lamp o'clock, which I'm just getting my mood lighting going. And so once the kitchen is cleaned up from dinner, I turn everything down and I leave these glowing, and it just looks like soft sort of candlelight, and it's so cozy and magical. I love that. The glass front cabinets was another area of debate because people in my family like to just sort of, put things back willy-nilly. And so it took some learning to know that everything has its place, but we're all on the same page now. And I love being able to see our everyday pieces. I just went with all white place settings, so it makes it actually really easy. But everything lives, here fully exposed and stays nice and organized. I've got my copper pots up at the top that my mother made me register for when I got married, and I never use, but I love that I have them. They're beautiful up there. And these wicker little drinking glasses that I found in an antique store are just so sweet. They're from the 50s. And anything with rattan or cane or anything natural like that, I just love. So those are fun. So this pass-through into the dining room was existing. This was there. And I didn't originally love the idea of it for some reason, but It lets in a ton of light to the kitchen, which is super important. And also, it's just incredibly convenient. The kids don't have to bring their plates all the way around into the kitchen. They can just plop them up here when they're done, and then I do the dishes, or they do the dishes, depending on the night. So it's actually really convenient. And I also am a huge fan of a lamp in the kitchen. Everybody needs to do this. When the dishes are done again and you're turning things down, to have a lamp on in the kitchen at night is just inviting and warm, and it just adds a certain, hominess to a room. I think too, the way this home is laid out, because you walk in and really the first thing you see is the kitchen, it was important to make it feel more like furniture and living space than it did a kitchen. So the choices like making, having a lamp in here, making the island feel like furniture, those were intentional choices to make it feel a little less utilitarian and more inviting. How have I made this place mine, or ours for our family? I love sort of collecting things. If you look around, I can tell a story about everything. It's sort of come from some part of my life. The sofa that I'm looking at right now was the first piece of furniture my husband and I bought together, 15 years ago. It's been 4 different colors. We've changed it according to where we were, but it sort of traveled with us. We lived in 9 homes since we met, and so we've just sort of collected like gypsies along the way and changed things and altered things, but they've come with us, so they all tell a story. And so there's not one defined style. Honestly, everything is just very collected and sort of thrown together, and it all works. I might have had a piece in my living room in my last house, but now it's sitting in my dining room. You just kind of have to move things around and make them work for where you are. But stylistically, again, I wanted it to be really casual. Nothing is too formal in this house. It's very small. It's really just like sort of one great room. So everything has to sort of serve multiple purposes. And again, I like traditional, but it has to be very approachable and comfortable. And I want there to be sand on the floor, and I want there to be a dog on the couch, and I want a cooking mess in the kitchen, and I love all that. So decorating with sort of a lot of stuff kind of lends itself to that sometimes, because you don't really see the mess. If it was like sleek and modern, I think every little thing out of place would really bother me. But because I've kind of gooped it up and layered everything on top of each other, all the extra life mess just kind of blends right in with it and just makes the space even happier. So I am from Southern California, but I spent a lot of time on the East Coast in Manhattan and then in Chicago. So I think my style is very traditional, but when we moved here, I knew that it needed to be a little bit less formal, super casual, and so I tried to marry those 2 styles. And also, having 5 children, it needed to take the wear and tear, so I didn't want anything to be too fussy, and really use natural materials that age well. In fact, the more they age, the better they sort of get. So I would say it's kind of a hodgepodge between casual and traditional. I like things a little bit quirky, a little bit off, a little bit imperfect. Again, I go back to things that really can take a beating. The rugs sort of have wear and tear and holes in them, but I like that. I use a lot of antiques in the house, and that's twofold. That's, because I love the look of them, but also if they get a little bit dinged up, that's okay. They came that way. So the more the age, the better they get. In the kitchen, I used a honed marble intentionally. I wanted to see the etchings of, the kids spilling an orange juice. I like the patina that all of those materials bring. So I really kept that in mind when decorating the house. And also too, I wanted the palette that I use to be really just sort of bright and happy. I love, dark rooms and all of that, but I really, with this space, needed to keep in mind that it's sunny and hot most of the year, and so I kind of did a base of everything really light and white, and then added in colors and textures on top of that. And follow me, I'll show you some other areas in the house. So the staircase down leads to utilitarian stuff, laundry, garage, that sort of thing. But this flag I wanted to call out, don't give up the ship. It has significance to us. On my grandfather's side, we're related to Commander Oliver Perry, who was a famous naval officer. And he had this flag commissioned that says, don't give up the ship. And it became famous in a very famous military battle. And then after the battle, and it became famous, they moved the flag to the United States Naval Academy Memorial Hall. And flash forward hundreds of years, I marry my husband, and I had bought this flag, and he said, what do you know about this flag? And I said, oh, it's my great-great-grandfather's, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it's big history in my school because I went to the Naval Academy. So it's got this dual meaning for both of us, which is super, super special. And I just think it's such a great message for when the kids head out the door in the morning to school, like, don't give up the ship, like, just keep on charging. So it holds a special place in all of our hearts for that. And then my husband was in the Navy for a long time, and something that they do is they give paddles as a form of recognition. So he's got his collection of paddles down there, which is fun. And then from there, it leads us right into our den/sunroom. So come on in. So this is our den/sunroom. When we bought the house, it was an exterior space, very outdoors feeling. It was the exterior of the home siding, so we wanted to cozy it up and use it as extra sort of TV hangout space. So we added the paneling and painted it all out, this great color by Faro and Ball. I can't recall the name, but I can just DM me. I'll let you know what color it is. Sort of a green taupe. And then we had this sectional from a previous home, and just by sheer luck, it actually fit perfectly. So it sits in here. And this is a frame TV, which we love. It looks like art. You can change the art, but it's really a TV. So it acts as a second TV room, family room for us. The collection of art on the wall is a complete hodgepodge of things. So recently, my sister and I did a room at the Kips Bay Show House in Dallas, and a wonderful antique store in Dallas called Wolf Hall had lent us a couple of oil paintings for the room, and I fell in love with everything that they let us borrow, so I ended up purchasing it for myself when we were done. But this nautical landscape was one of them, which is fabulous. It's very ornate. But the rest of it, it's a very much high-low. So we've got some very inexpensive art mixed with some more expensive art. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no particular theme. But if it makes me happy and it spoke to me, then I just sort of throw it up there. And like any good gallery wall, it works. It just feels eclectic and collected over time. The great thing about this room from a practical standpoint is that with the touch of a button, I can pull down 2 different types of shades. So we can completely black out the room and watch a movie, which is really fun. Or we can put another kind of shade down and just sort of diffuses the light. Also, all of these doors open up completely. So when we entertain outside, we open up the doors and you can watch TV or kind of have this nice indoor-outdoor flow. It's really, one of the perks of living in Southern California is that we don't have a lot of bugs or humidity. So we can really just leave these doors wide open and enjoy the space, which is great. So for the floor, I wanted a marble look without the marble price. So these are porcelain tiles in a black and a white that we had cut down to a specific size, and then I just had my floor guy lay them in a diamond pattern, which is great, completely durable, looks more high-end than it actually is. The natural seagrass rug I love, but we just got a puppy who you met, and she has had a couple accidents in the space. So in order to cover that up, I was looking for an additional rug to go on top of that. And I found this great sort of Dury style rug in London. And I fell in love with it, but it's silk, which is also not very durable with a puppy. But you live and you learn, and I love the way it looks. So that's that. So I'm a huge stalker of estate sales. I get like an alert if there's an estate sale in my area, and usually when you get an alert like that, they'll send you pictures of some of the listings. Most of the time I don't go because there's not much that's great, but this estate sale popped up and it had a set of 4 of these chairs, and so I rushed over and beelined through the crowd to find these, and I'm so in love that I found 4 of them. The seats were a little beat up and there was no cushion on them, but they were a steel, and I just had my workroom make a cushion for me, and voila. Now I have to do something with the other three, but for now this one looks great in the space. Love those. This console table we've had forever. It's sort of industrial. It's metal with these bolts, but I think it's just a fun piece, super hardy. And I love my little statue guy here that I stick cactuses in. I don't have a green thumb. I kill everything for some reason, but cactuses and ZZ plants seem to survive in my house. So you'll see a lot of those throughout the home. These lights are by Urban Electric, and I don't know if it's showing up now, but they're reflective. So at night, all these little cut glass pieces reflect the light back, and it looks like a little halo of twinkle lights, and they're just really special. The pottery lamp is by a company out of Mexico, and they do really just beautiful, sort of like whitewashed pottery. So that's a pendant from them. So if you have a lot of kids, or even one kid, you know how important it is to make the pieces in your home durable and sturdy. And tip number one, I'm a big fan of, again, antiques, because they come used. You know, nothing's worse than that first scratch on a new car, but if it comes to you a little beat up, you're not gonna notice an extra ding or two. So love using antiques. Obviously, durable fabrics are a big deal. The performance fabrics that are made now are just so phenomenal. They can truly live inside and out, and things can get spilled and just cleaned right up. I'm a fan of natural fiber rugs, whether that be 100% wool or like a seagrass. They're really hardy and they're pretty easy to clean. So those are great. And again, don't make anything so fussy and so perfect that you're afraid to have somebody sit on it. Everything should be inviting, and if a pillow gets tossed on the floor and sat on, it's totally fine. So, but I would also suggest, I think people's inclination when they have children is to not invest in things because they feel like, oh, it's just gonna get ruined anyway. In my experience, if you invest in a good sofa or a really, good material that may cost a little bit more, it actually wears better than something that you spent less money on. So I know it's scary to make that big investment, but you don't want to be replacing something in 6 months to a year because it got some wear and tear. A really well-made piece is going to really stand the test of time and can totally hold up. I've got a chest here in my living room that is over 200 years old, and how is it still here 200 years later? It's because it was incredibly well built. It's been shipped all over the world probably, and been in a bunch of homes, and it's still here looking beautiful, and that's because it was made really well. And so don't be scared, invest in something that's gonna last. So the great thing about being in this room is that you sort of feel like you're outside, but you're inside, but the outside is equally great. So why don't you come on out and I'll show you around the backyard. So this is our backyard. It's not huge, but it does the trick. So my daughter actually had a play date the other day, and they did a painting project. So we set up the table for them, and it looks so cute, I decided to keep it out. So I think we'll enjoy it for a little bit longer. But again, being in California, we can use this all year long, and we'll probably have dinner out here tonight. You can see the kids' basketball court is also here. It kind of serves multiple functions, but we've got some roof decks and whatnot as well, so we utilize a lot of the outdoor space. So this is a new addition. So we just got the puppy Lonnie a few months ago, and the next day my sweet 9-year-old was on my computer with all of his Amazon gift cards. I said, "What are you doing, buddy?" And he said, "I'm gonna buy her a doghouse." So this doghouse came, but it was all in pieces. It was just a doghouse kit. So he worked really hard and made this all by himself. The dog has never used it, but he's very proud of it. So it sits here now, and it's just very sweet. The lanterns are all from a company called Bevelot out of New Orleans. And we've got a combination of electric ones, and we've got some gas lanterns hanging too, which is super special, especially at night when you can hear that ocean and the gas lanterns are going. It feels like you're transported somewhere else. It's pretty magical. And then we also have a sort of a grass area of the yard over here to my right, and it's where the kids play soccer. And you can't see it from here, but there's a straight shot to the ocean. So I think they're the luckiest kids alive that they get to play soccer every night and look at the ocean while they're doing it. They have no idea how lucky they are. I am not a gardener. I have no green thumb. I kill most things that I plant, but I have found that if I plant them in planters, they're somehow more manageable. So I do a lot of kind of a collection of things, and then if something dies, it's okay, I can swap it out and without killing the entire garden. So this is my attempt at planting. The rose bushes were here when we moved in, and they kind of bloom and die and bloom and die, but when they're in full bloom, this entire area is just covered in white roses, and it is so magical. It smells amazing, and it just looks divine. So that's a really special spot. So now follow me on upstairs. We'll go take a look at some of the bedrooms. So welcome to the second floor. This is where most of the bedrooms are. This is our primary bedroom. One of the better views to the ocean in the house. It gets better the higher you climb. So these are French doors that open up to the little deck, which is so lovely. I sleep with the windows open so I can hear that beautiful sound out there. I have my collection of family photos here that I love to wake up to and see every single day. And this bed has been one of those pieces, same thing as that couch. We bought it right when we got married, and it's traveled with us. And it was just from one of those big box retail stores, kind of bland, a solid colored linen. And so I knew when I got it here that I wanted to do something special. So found this great block print fabric and had it reupholstered, which really has given it a whole new life. This bone inlay table was a great find. I have friends, Patrick Wade and David DeMattai, that own a store right around the corner, which is super dangerous, and they carry the most beautiful things. So I frequent them often, and they've had this antique vintage table that was just so beautiful and fit perfectly right here. So it's sort of a desk slash nightstand. So the table lamp is red leather, vintage Italian lamp. I can't recall the designer, but I found it on First Dibs. I love it. It gives us sort of a masculine vintage energy, which I think is great. And then does it seem like overkill to have a reading lamp and a desk lamp? No, because it's hard to turn off a table lamp when you're in bed. So it's nice to have this little guy here. My husband and I will both read at night, but we sort of have a slightly different schedules. He goes to bed pretty early, so it's so nice to just be able to turn on my little reading lamp and not bother him with, lighting up the whole room. So that comes in handy. These bamboo chairs, so I would highly suggest that everyone go onto Amazon and buy themselves a set of these bamboo chairs. They're not expensive. They work in almost any room of the house. We use them as outside chairs as well. They are great extra seating if you have guests, and they're just sort of a chicer version of a folding chair, and they age really well. So the wallpaper is a seagrass or grass cloth, and I just wanted it to be in a really natural, neutral color. Almost has the look of sand or like a bleached wood. Just makes it feel really earthy and easy. And I'm a big picture hanger. Like, I love to hang pictures, but then I change my mind. And so I think grass cloth is so forgiving because you can put a million holes in grass cloth, and then when you change your mind and take a piece of art off, you can't even see the hole. So that's a little trick I like to use. This wardrobe hides all of our sheets and blankets and that sort of thing. And when we got it, it just had some, strange mesh kind of covering on it. So we popped that out and just did pleated ticking stripe fabric, which is lovely and very cost-effective way to do that. So lots of built-in storage, which is great. Obvious answer to what I love most about this home would be the location. We are literally a stone's throw from the sea, and so it's so magical to smell the ocean every day, hear it at night when we're falling asleep, see it. It's the most calming thing, and so I love that about it. But I also love, and this is it was a surprise to me with this house, because we went from 5,000 square feet in Chicago to 2,000-ish square feet here, which is tight when you have 5 children. But I love how small and cozy it is, and how I can hear, good or bad, I can hear what the kids are doing at all times. I know where everybody is, and there is just something really special about being in such kind of confined space with one another. I don't know if I'll always be able to say that, but right now that's what I'm loving about it. It's really easy to clean when you have a small house, so I love that. And I think, we've only been here for 2.5 years, and I think in that time, we've really made this house feel like ours. We've done things to improve it. I hope that we've done things that, future families can enjoy about the house, but I think we've left our mark on it, and that feels good. This house, and any house really, is always a work in progress, right? There's always something I could make better. But I like that about it. I like that it's a project. If it was just perfect and there was nothing to be done, I'd probably get bored. So I like that it's a little quirky and it needs some fixing. I think that's the fun of it. And then from the bedroom, it leads right into my office, which I'll show you now. So welcome to my office. It's small but mighty. In Chicago, we have a nice, big, beautiful studio, but here it's just me, so I don't need much space. I also have the best views of the ocean from all windows, so that's special. It makes it a little bit hard to get work done because I'm distracted, but I get it done, I promise. Love the bamboo shelving. It holds my sample library, which is very convenient, and I love magazines, so I just stack them up here on the chair, and I can always reach for one. The sconces, again, love a sconce. Come nighttime, I turn off the other lights, I'll put the little sconces on, and it just makes this space feel really cozy and warm. These blinds, they're Chic, but they're actually called Chic blinds, and I ordered them at the height of COVID, and they are made in India, so they took about 11 months to get to me, but once they did, I was very excited. I love them. You'll see a lot of designers use these. They're really simple, but sort of elegant and casual at the same time. You can even get them lined, so if sunlight or privacy is an issue, you can get those, but there's just something really kind of charming about them, I think, and their kind of wonkiness. They're always a little bit crooked, but I love that. And my stacks of samples over here, and always, again, just kind of playing with collections of little prints and vintage art that I find, and it finds new homes all the time, but love this collection, and I love throwing in a convex mirror too. That makes it neat. So another collection aside from the silver that my grandparents had is they collected antique clocks. So this was one of theirs. It sadly has stopped working. I need to get that fixed, but I love this piece, and it found its perfect home sitting right here in my office. So love being reminded of them on a daily basis. So now I'll take you into one of our kids' rooms. So with 5 children, we had to double them up. So there's bunk beds in all of the kids' rooms. So this is the youngest set of kids. There's a boy and a girl in here. And I fell in love with this rustic pine bed, kind of a log cabin style bed. It's from a company out of Wisconsin that's family owned, and they're like the only people that do these authentic log cabin beds. So love this. Wasn't sure if it was gonna fit, but got it here and kind of fit just perfectly. So that's great. And then my next favorite thing in this room is this wallpaper. I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of like an MC Escher, like the pattern sort of plays on top of each other. It's a repeat, and it's this wonderful artist out of the UK. She's in her 90s, and she still does all this block printing herself, which is phenomenal. And I was really concerned that my kids were going to use it for like a coloring book and color it in, but so far they haven't. And honestly, if they did, it wouldn't really bother me. So this is great. We have our relatives, actually some of them came over on the Mayflower, so this is an important piece to us that we talk about with the kids, and how special it is that we had ancestors that came over on the Mayflower. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's actually all needle pointed, which is really fun. What gives a home a soul is hands down the people in it, right? It's the people that you love in your family. During COVID, we made a very rash decision to sell our house in Chicago and pack everything that we owned and move to Hawaii for a year. And when we did that, I was incredibly nervous because I'm a huge homebody and lover of my own space and like my things around me and obviously love to decorate. So the thought of, sort of being nomadic and moving into a home that wasn't mine with things that weren't mine was really scary to me. But it did not take long for me to realize that home is really the people. And my family was there and we were happy and we were thriving. And before you know it, this little beach shack that we were living in that was totally hodgepodge and was definitely not my style, but it very quickly became home. And I think looking back now and even 20, 30 years from now, my favorite memories are going to be of our time there. And so home, it's the people you surround yourself with, and that's really all you need. So the tour would not be complete without showing you the absolute best part of this entire house, which is way up here on the roof. So this is our deck where we grill. We don't hang out here as much, but this is great for when my husband's cooking. I get to sit here with a glass of wine and join him. But join me upstairs. This is where the real treat is. Come on up. So now that you've made it all the way to the top and you got your workout out for the day, this is the treat. This is where we hang out all the time. This is the roof deck, and really, honestly, the reason why we bought the house. The view is not quite 360, but almost. You can see downtown to the bay and all the way along the coast of La Jolla, which is fabulous. We get the best sunsets up here. Tomorrow is actually my birthday, so we're having people over tonight to have a margarita party, so we're all set up for that, which is fun. But this is like chill out central. If you're having a bad day, you come up here and you just take it all in, watch the surfers, and you're just instantly in a better mood. So right now there's about 5 surfers out there. There's been days when there's been about 100 surfers out there, which is really fun. I've got my binoculars on the ready so I can spy on them. We also get a lot of whale activity out there, which is great. It's a pretty special spot. So when we bought this, it's hard to believe, but the glass wasn't here. So this was all wall. So you couldn't see the view unless you were standing up. And the second you sat down, it disappeared. So my husband's big project was this deck, and he came up with the idea of adding the glass walls. So we're still at code here because these are considered walls, but we now have this amazing view even when we're sitting down. The word home means to me, first and foremost, my family. Wherever they are is definitely home. It can be, a beach shack, it could be a mansion. I don't care where it is, as long as they're there, that's home to me. I think as a designer home, it's always sort of a bit of an experiment. It's really fun to try things that you wouldn't normally do for a client, and always be sort of tweaking and honing your skills in your own home. So it's a bit of a project and an experiment, and I love that. But really, a home is it's where you feel the safest. And at the end of a long day, when your kids are scattered and you're all over the place, to be able to come home and have a casual dinner and enjoy one another is just, it fills your soul and energizes you for the rest of your week and days. And it's just a haven. Home is a haven.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.